Alrighty boys, welcome back to another step-by-step video. Now today's video is going to be on Chachanka. Now Chachanka is going to be I believe the fourth part of who is the best time burn operator. And the main concept that I want you guys to understand with Chachanka is going to be the specificness of him. So with Chachanka, you have that grenade launcher, right? Incendiary launcher. Now the important thing with this is that when you are using it, you have some kind of like plan of action in mind. And I say you should do this with every single operator, but I feel like with Chachanka it's even more important because one of the things that's kind of rough about Chachanka is that if you have no plan of action, a lot of the times your grenade launcher is not going to have a lot of value. So one of the ways that I like to use the grenade launcher is that I like to play inside of archives here on border. This is actually during Siege Cup. The enemy team was going for a play every round where they would like kind of bait for like an archives rush, if that makes sense. So what I did is that I would basically run Chachanka, because one of the things about Chachanka is that if so their idea is basically they want to rush for archives, right? But the thing is they don't want to rush unless they get rid of all of our nitro cells, if that makes sense. So they're basically baiting until we basically burn all of our utilities. So Chachanka is really helpful here because he will just shut down this plant and this push in general without the enemy team being able to really do anything about it besides just flood in. And the reason why flooding in is like the main action that these guys will have is because one of the things that happens a lot in this game is that if you ever try to like switch up your push with like your stack, especially if you are in a 5 stack, it's like really difficult to get everybody on the same page to rotate, because most likely the only person, or maybe only person or 2 people maybe, that can rotate are usually the people who are like kind of like off on the side, if that makes sense. Like for example, if you're going for a rush plan in this position, you're probably positioning someone on east stairs. The people who are going to be calling for like the rotate are probably going to be the people over by east stairs. In this position, the Monty tried to force plant next to the window, like so basically like to my straight left in this position. So he's hugging the soft wall here, and he tried to plant in that position. However, that doesn't work because one of my teammates was able to come over and just swing and get the free kill onto him. And I believe that Monty also in that position was also getting burned by my fire, so it was also like GG's for him in that position as well. But anyway, if there's a guy over by east stairs, I guarantee you in this position he's calling for a rotate. Like I said, there's going to be at least one guy who is going to go ahead and rotate, which is going to be this Blackbeard. Nice thing about Chachanka is that he's really good against shield players, so this Blackbeard, I light him up to 1 HP, and then I'm going to go ahead and fire him off to go ahead and kill him right there. And there's going to be another guy to push us through archives. We get the kill on him on a pre-fire, and then there's going to be another one going through archives again that wasn't able to rotate, and we're going to go ahead and kill him as well. Last guy in this position is rotated to metal. I assume this is the guy that was on east stairs. He actually ended up rotating to metal. He actually rotates through our 90 rotate here, and he gets a kill on the me. Luckily, my teammate's going to be able to refrag me to secure the round. Hopefully this idea is starting to make sense to you guys here, but long story short, the idea of Chachanka here is that your goal is to prevent the rush plant. So you play inside of archives, you wait for the enemy team to use like smokes or yings or whatever, and then you use your fire to basically counteract that. So the thing that's really important to note is that you shouldn't start firing like early until the enemy team starts throwing utility, if that makes sense. So whenever I see a smoke grenade go off, that's when I'll start using my grenade launcher to try to get the kills basically, or try to get the plant spots in particular. Now the other thing is the way that this Buck tried to do it, where he basically went underneath below and he tried to shoot me through the hatch. You have the ACOG with Chachanka as well, so it's like that type of gunfight is going to be very easy for you to win, because typically when you take gunfights on a vertical position, it's much easier to win the gunfights overall. One of the things that I'd actually want to like expand on a little bit is something that I brought up in the last clip, where if the enemy team, like you're playing Chachanka or you're playing Smoke or whatever you're playing, the thing about like Chachanka and Smoke is technically they're very flexible operators. Chachanka is a little bit more like specific with how he uses his grenade launcher. So like for example, with the archives rush, the Chachanka is like probably the perfect operator. You could still use smoke technically, but the problem is that the enemy team will probably burn out your utility a lot quicker than they would Chachanka, for example. Like in that last clip, I cut out like a good minute of just the enemy team just like baiting basically, where they're just trying to get us to use like our C4s, use our fire, use, you know what I mean, use all of the utilities, so that way they can just walk in and go for the plant. And they also, once they realized they weren't able to do that, excuse me, they tried to do the Buck play where Buck goes below and he tries to shoot me from the hatch to prevent me from actually denying the plant. Right here, this is going to be a free kill for the big window for top floor on Chalet. Not sure what this guy is doing, but you know what I mean. That is a nice little easy free kill that you guys can go for. Is anybody repelling on the big window? Usually they'll go on the bottom left of that window. However, that guy went right down the middle for some reason, so we were able to get a very easy kill onto him. Now, the thing that I want you guys to understand is that whenever you're playing Chachanka or you're playing Smoke, it's very, very, very important to trade utility. And what I mean by trading utility is like if the enemy team uses like a flashbang, if they use like a smoke grenade, if they use a Yin Candela, if they use a Grim device, if they use Sense, if they use, you know what I mean? If they use any piece of utility that they don't have like a lot of, you need to be trading that utility with your fire, basically. With your fire on Chachanka, or if you're using smokes, you want to trade it with smoke. Now, luckily, operators like Grim, for example, a lot of people, how they'll play it is they'll shoot like a lot of Grims out all at once from one specific position. So when you're using operators like smoke, you're going to be able to basically fire it off to basically shut down for like 2 or 3 pieces of utility, if that makes sense. So that's like your ideal goal. However, there is going to be a world where somebody's going to use like 1 Grim. You're going to do 1 fire, 1 Grim, 1 fire, 1 Grim, 1 fire, 1 Grim, 1 fire. But that doesn't really happen that often, but I feel like I should bring it up regardless, because it could technically happen where somebody, you know what I mean, tries to trade 1 1 1 1 1 1 1. So Chachanka is going to be better than Smoke in that department, because for example, Grim has 5 of his Grim thingies, his Grim bees that he shoots out, and Smoke only has 3, so he could only counter 3 of them technically, so if you think about it in that way. So what that means is that technically Chachanka might be the best operator for trading out utility for the teams that like to burn time to burn your utility first, like the Archives rush on Border. A lot of people, when they try to rush it, they usually will toss out like 1 Yin Candela to get people to toss their nitro cells out, or to toss out 1 smoke grenade to get people to toss their nitro cells out. So if operators like Smoke, it's a lot more important to like toss your utility out at the crucial moments, like when the enemy team is actually going for their play. However, with operators like Chachanka, you don't actually have to be that specific. And also, the other really good thing about Chachanka is the ACOG, which I'm going to show in this clip as well. This is going to be a good position for Chachanka that you guys can actually play, just like Archives, where we're going to be playing for Mannequin here on the basement bomb side of Clubhouse. And the idea here is that we use our grenade launcher to basically fire off for blue, for main stairs. All we do is just quick peek and shoot our grenade launcher, and all our goal is to do is basically just burn a little bit of time on those locations. Basically, that's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to look to burn 45 seconds or anything like that. We're just trying to burn a little bit amount of time from these like main stairs, blue stairs, stuff like that. And the idea that we're going for here, and you're gonna see that I killed somebody on the kitchen hatch. We basically want the enemy team to have to go to either kitchen hatch or go somewhere where I'm not firing. So like, for example, in this clip, the enemy team tried to go for a moto drop, as well as they tried to peek me on kitchen hatch. I have an ACOG though, so I'm actually able to just peek the kitchen hatch here to get free kills on anybody that decides to peek me on the hatch in this position. And then since we're firing off main, we're firing off blue stairs, what ends up happening is that the enemy team is going to have to switch up their push in this position. They're going to have to basically go for things that are like not getting fired off, if that makes sense. So like, for example, in this position, the enemy team is going to be still going for moto. They're going to still be going for the kitchen hatch here, so I'm going to get another kill on kitchen hatch, and then there's going to be another guy who's going to end up coming over to blue in this position. Now genuinely, this one Goyle that's on Mannequin here is actually really bad, because what can end up happening is that the enemy team can get utility onto my Goyle here. It'll actually push me out of this position. However, what ends up happening is that Gridlock did not actually do that. She didn't toss any of her nades to basically get rid of me out of this position, so we're able to just swing aggressively once we get a little audio of her walking down. Swinger, get ourselves a very easy kill. She was trying to punch our barbed wire that we placed inside of blue, so that's why we're able to get that free kill right there off of the audio swing. Now next up, we're going to be over on Oregon here on the top floor bomb site. Now the important thing that I want you guys to understand with Chachanka is that Chachanka is one of those operators where, like, if you can find like a lot of lineups, he's like really strong for denying like very specific pushes, if that makes sense. So for example, like if you guys pay attention to Pro League at all, one of the things that Stompin did over on Bank when he was playing against Shaiko, and this happened like a while ago, but Shaiko was on like a 30-game win streak or something like that. I don't even remember what it was, but the way that he was using Chachanka was that he was basically playing like back of sight on the basement bomb site of Bank, and the enemy team, I don't know why in Pro League they always go for like a server push, and I feel like it's very defaulty. So I assume that's why this like lineup got created in the first place. But basically the idea is that Stompin was playing Chachanka back of sight. The enemy team goes for a server push. They open up the wall. They get ready for their default plant, and then they use Chachanka to basically prevent them from planting, if that makes sense, with a specific lineup with Chachanka. And that's kind of like the really important factor that comes into play whenever you do play Chachanka, is that you need to have like these little like lineups in the back of your head that you guys can use, so that way you can basically shut down like default plants. And that's going to be like the real like key play when you are playing Chachanka, is to find these little plays that can basically shut down the enemy team for whatever push that they're trying to go for. And if you are playing in one of those teams that like stays alive, it can be really easy to shut down a lot of the default plants in this game, as long as you do know the lineups. However, this is going to be a round where a lot of my team is unfortunately going to end up dying very easily. The enemy team for this round is they're doing like a main wall push, attic push, and I believe trophy and games window here. So what's going to end up happening here is there's going to be one guy trying to hold me from attic. And this type of position, all I really need to do is just kind of chill. The main thing that we got to watch out for here is the attic walk up. If we allow the attic walk up, we're probably like losing on the spot. Now, unfortunately, in a second here, two of my teammates are going to die. One of my teammates is going to die inside of games, and my other teammate's going to die over by white staircase here. And then what's going to end up happening here, though, luckily, is this Sophia that's on big window is actually going to start concussing me. And when somebody concusses you like that, it's basically a go sign to basically that they're going to hop in. So he goes ahead and hop in. I'm going to go ahead and get a free kill into him. And then the enemy team is actually going to start going for an execute here. Now, these guys aren't going to plant default. They're actually going to go ahead and just plant right on the breach, covered in smoke here. I fired out default here, so I know default's clear in this position. So I'm going to go ahead and pay attention to the breach now. Get one free kill for breach. And then the last guy in this position is games window. We can just safely assume that he's games window because they need somebody on that window for the post plant. And so we kill him to secure the round. But hope you guys enjoyed. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!